Welcome to a special edition of Here's What, featuring the WWE Draft. But first, let's talk about the past couple of weeks in wrestling land. I apologize for not being here for the past couple of weeks. I've had a lot of family things, but I am back, and what a week to be back. We have the draft, but again, before I get to that, I want to talk about Dean Ambrose. His promo last week on Monday Night Raw against Seth Rollins, if you haven't seen it, please look it up, was the Dean Ambrose that we wanted to see. That was one of the best promos he's had, I believe, so far. It was, lunatic fringe, Dean Ambrose being crazy, but it showed that Dean Ambrose, that character. We hadn't seen a lot of that lately, and I think it's what he needed. I kind of felt like he'd been held back a little bit as opposed to Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns following the split of the Shield, so it was great to see that Dean Ambrose come out and come alive again. We also had the dream match of all dream matches, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Finn Balor. Now, with Finn getting called up to the main roster, it was clearly a passing of the torch, as Finn had pretty much been NXT since his debut 2 years ago. And I don't think it could have gone to anybody better. Shinsuke is going to be on the top of his game. I cannot wait to see what he does with NXT. Speaking of NXT, we also have the Cruiserweight Classic that debuted last week. And with Stephanie announcing that there's going to be a Cruiserweight division on Raw, I can only imagine that some of those talents are going to end up being signed and head on over to Raw, which is a huge accomplishment, as many of them have been in the indie promotions for a while. So I cannot wait to see what goes on with that. And we also had Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon picking their general managers for Raw and SmackDown, with Stephanie picking Mick Foley and Shane picking Daniel Bryan. I think both are great choices. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with their respective shows. I thought the Mick Foley pick was a little strange considering the history with the McMahons, but he's entertaining. We've seen him as the commissioner before. We all loved him. So I cannot wait to see what they do with that. Now, again, before I get into the draft, now that there are call-ups from NXT, that means that there are spots left in NXT to fill. So one of those, I believe, should be filled by Candice LeRae. I'm sure you've heard of her. One of the greatest female wrestlers we have today. She would just, again, I think she'd fit right in with the roster. I mean, Bayley, Asuka, we got the up-and-comers like Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. They'd all work great with her. Candice definitely would be a great addition to the roster. Her boyfriend, actually fiance, I believe, was already on NXT, Johnny Garanjo. Sorry if I said his name wrong. So, them two working together would be fantastic, but regardless, she's got the talent, she's got the look, she's got the experience, and it would be great to see her on NXT. And last but not least, who you should be looking out for this week is going to be the entire NXT roster. With all the call-ups happening, it's leaving spots on the roster that need to be filled, especially with Finn Balor heading on up to the main roster. There are people that are going to be gunning for his spot, which is at the top of the division, top of the brand, sorry. And it's anybody's game. Everybody's got potential. That's why they're there. So we're going to wait and see to who steps up their game. Now, on to the draft. Again, if you haven't heard me mention 20 times, I'm very excited. Finn Balor finally has been drafted to Monday Night Raw, along with Nia Jax. Now, Finn clearly has the experience. I think we all know he's going to do great. Nia is less experienced, hasn't spent too much time in NXT, but I think her being on Raw with the likes of Charlotte, Summer Rae, Alicia Fox, I think it's going to help her. Sasha Banks as well. Sorry, did not forget about her fans. I think it's going to help her just get better. And we also had American Alpha, Carmella, Alexa Bliss, and Mojo Rawley all being drafted to SmackDown. American Alpha, clear choice, top tag team in NXT. I cannot wait to see what they do on SmackDown. It was interesting that they didn't get drafted to Raw, but with Raw having the New Day and Enzo and Cass, I think they would have gotten outshined, so I think SmackDown is the perfect position for them. Mojo, I'm assuming, is going to be teaming with Zack Ryder, so there's another great, interesting tag team we've had. Now, Carmella and Alexa, two of my personal favorites. I wish they'd had a run with the NXT Women's Championship in NXT, but nonetheless, they do deserve to be called up to the main roster. Again, they're a little inexperienced, but with them being on the roster with Naomi, Becky Lynch, and Natalya, it's the perfect position for them to learn and to get better. So it's anywhere up from here. Now, speaking of those women, it appears that SmackDown is looking for their women's roster. We also have Eva Marie, who again can learn from the veterans and just become better in her position. SmackDown has a great women's roster coming out of this draft. I think they won there. That appears to be the main focus that they have. Now, Raw looks to be focusing on the new talent. We have Finn Balor, Nia, but we have Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Kevin Owens, Neville. I'm hoping that they're going to be the main focus, and I believe that's what Raw is looking to do, especially with the Cruiserweight division going to be joining. I think that's what we all want to see. We want to see the people that haven't had that chance before. And some of my personal favorites, I think, are finally going to be able to show what they're made of. Although we all know it's just going to be on a bigger scale. Now, Raw also has the tag team champions with The New Day, Enzo and Cass, the Dudleys, among other tag teams, which appears to be their focus. And I think that's a great idea because the tag team division has been on fire lately. So with them being on Raw, which, I'm sorry guys, is the main show, it's just promoting them more, and it's going to help them in any way. Alright, I guess that's all we have for today. If you have any questions, please comment below, or drop me a line on my Twitter. I'm going to put that below, and I will see you next week.